Yes, we're in a new lesson. We will talk about the 3 channels of communication. Now, we've talked about storytelling. We will be communicating with people. We will constantly be conveying messages to them. So what do we use when we communicate? We use 3 things. We use our words, our tone, and our body language. Now, which of these is more important? For example, think about it. Which one is more important? Is it the words? Are the words we choose more important, or is it our tone, or is it our body language? If you are already involved in this field, you probably know this to some extent. Albert Mehrabian conducted a study on this subject at Stanford University back in the day. The importance of words in conveying emotion. Look, this is a subtle point when it comes to conveying emotion. So, not in something emotionless, but if we want to influence the other person, if we want to evoke an emotion in them, the importance of words is only 7%. The importance of tone is 38%. The importance of body language is 55%. But we were always taught words. We were always taught the importance of words. Yes, words are important, but when there is no proper tone and body language, the importance of words remains only 7%. But words are not unimportant either, let's not forget that. But if there is no tone, even if you tell the most beautiful story or say the most beautiful words, it doesn't work. Now let me tell you a story about words. Since we've talked about the power of storytelling, let me use it right here as well. Look, I just made a plain sentence. What do I do right after? I tell a story, that's what. There was a blind beggar. Every day he would sit on one of the busy streets of the city and write, "I am blind." People would throw him some money. One day, a poet who was very skilled with words passed by, took the cardboard, turned it over, wrote something on it, and put it back. The beggar didn't say anything. Then suddenly the amount of money started to increase significantly. It tripled, it quintupled. One day, as the poet was passing by again, he approached him. The beggar somehow recognized him. From his voice and so on, he asked, "What did you do? What did you write here?" He replied, "It used to say I am blind. I turned it over and wrote, 'Spring will come soon, but I still won't be able to see it.'" See how much a word can change everything. That's why we must definitely pay attention to our words. We must make sure to choose our words carefully. We should use our expressions beautifully. But now let's move on to intonation. If we don't add intonation, especially when speaking, the word will have no power at all. For example, let's think of a poem by Nazim Hikmet. Now, for example, I say it like this. Living is not something to joke about. You must live with great seriousness. Like a squirrel, for instance. That is, without expecting anything outside or beyond life itself. So, what emotion came across, for example? But if I say it like this, living is not something to joke about. You must live with great seriousness. Like a squirrel, for instance. That is, without expecting anything outside or beyond your life. In other words, your whole work and effort will be to live. So what happened now? These words have started to gain meaning. These words have started to reach the person in front of us, to reach you. For example, there's a saying by Mevlana. I see this sometimes in people who speak words. He says, "Sometimes troubles rain down on you like a storm, but the colorful rainbow appears after the rain." But sometimes troubles rain down on you like a storm, but the colorful rainbow also appears after the rain. When everything piles up on you and brings you to a point where you feel you can't take it anymore, never give up. Because that's the place where your destiny will change. Now, for example, on social media, I am known for my words, because they are watched a lot, watched by millions. Haven't these words been said by others before? They have. Mevlana's words are well known. Aren't there others who make these videos? They do. So what's the difference? First, the fact that I truly feel it is sensed by the other person. That's where empathy and the parts we talk about come in. Secondly, truly feeling it helps me use the right intonation and also allows me to use my body language accordingly. So when it comes to storytelling, you absolutely must use your intonation in a way that fits the story. Yes, I told you a story. For example, in one of the most expensive museums in London, the world's most expensive diamond was on display. Now, as you tell the story, you need to immerse yourself in it so that people will follow you. If you say one of the world's most expensive diamonds is on display in a museum in London, in a flat way, you'll lose your audience. That's why, if you have the opportunity, you absolutely must improve yourself in storytelling and in expressing these topics better. Now, moving from intonation, let's talk about body language. Body language was actually the most important because we reinforce this with our body language. Because a large part of our brain is dedicated to our sense of sight, that's why we tend to believe what we see rather than what we hear. For example, let's say someone says, I'm going to tell you something, right? If I sit here slouched, lean back, look up, sprawl out, even if I share the best information with the best intonation, it would get on your nerves and you wouldn't listen. Sometimes it happens, right? You go somewhere, try to tell someone something, and they're just sprawled out like that. You just can't focus while explaining because you expect the person in front of you to at least sit respectfully in a proper listening posture. Because body language actually conveys much more information than we think. Like, this person isn't listening to me, is listening, is doing this, is doing that. That's why body language, which also includes our energy, like being energetic, getting into the emotion while explaining and adjusting your tone according to the story, all of these are factors that determine our energy. That's why when it comes to storytelling or giving a speech, if we look at its importance, we said that words make up 7%, so we need to choose them well, but we also need to use our intonation very effectively, which makes up 38%. And when it comes to 55%, we need to learn to use our body language in the best possible way. But I want to say this. Whenever a person truly believes in what they're saying, I've always observed that they naturally use their body language and intonation correctly. For example, when someone tells a story from their past with excitement or talks about something they believe in, that's why I always say this. Yes, we should learn these techniques, we should practice them, and we should develop them within ourselves. But when we truly believe in something naturally, when we internalize it, it starts to flow on its own anyway. You end up expressing yourself naturally, using your intonation without even thinking about it. So it's about education, but also about believing and internalizing. And I constantly recommend this to you. In fact, let this be a rule. If you want to improve your body language, you absolutely must record yourself while telling stories. In fact, for example, even when you're giving advice to someone, record yourself then too. Because most of the time, for example, we think we're smiling or that we're sitting nicely or that we're using our body language well, but when we watch ourselves, we realize that's not the case at all. The best feedback method is to watch yourself. Look, I always say this at camp. For example, when I shoot a YouTube video or when I record an Instagram video, most of the time, I do the editing myself. I sit down and do the cutting and so on. Do you know what the biggest reason is? To watch myself. Over and over again, I say to myself, here I made the sentence too long, here I used this word too much, I used that a bit more. Just for this reason, for example, I sat down and learned editing. Only if I'm traveling a lot, someone from our team helps me. Other than that, I really sit down and edit it myself. Because by watching myself every time, I think, I could have said this a bit better here, I could express this a bit better here. That's how I improve myself. For example, make sure to record your own stories, your own words, poems on video. Sometimes record yourself speaking directly to the camera like I do. And other times, for example, turn to the side and film as if you're telling someone else. You could even tell it to a friend and then watch yourself. Truly, the greatest improvement comes from watching yourself. You develop by watching yourself. Let this be a very important lesson for you. For example, in the past, this was much harder. You needed a camera or something like that. Now, phones take care of everything anyway. So we are going to improve our communication channel in the best way possible. For this, we will use our words, intonation, and body language in the best way possible. Truly the best way. Yes, now we are moving on to another lesson.